Okay. I'm calling the Chico Unified School Board meeting to order. We will go into closed session first and come back at 6 o'clock for the open meeting. I'll see you then. Thank you. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have been in closed session, and we don't have anything to announce. So with that, we will go to the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have student reports.
Yes, we do. I am excited to introduce Parkview Principal Heather Cifuentes, and she's going to introduce us to some students.
Good evening, everybody. We are super excited to be here this evening. I have 4 fifth grade students with me tonight. One thing that has happened this year is we have been able to reinstitute and revive our school news program, and it's lovely. It's no longer Principal Cifuentes running it in the face of the news. It is now 100% being represented by students. So they have producers, the script writers, editors, they're choosing the stories, and they're really working hard to start to highlight all the different things that are happening around campus. So I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and they're going to talk about different aspects, and they're here to represent the first news story that will be going out, I think, next week. So first up is Jackson.
Hi, my name is Jackson Morbido, and I'm the Parkview News producer. My goal is to find interesting stories from around campus with a broad topic to create different news stories. I enjoy that I'm in all fields of the news and get to check in on how things are going. I hope that the news helps all of our students become more informed about what's happening around campus. I'm hoping that we get other students to be excited about the news and join the news and carry it on for more years.
All right, good, thank you.
And next up, we have Isabella.
Hello, my name is Isabella, and I am part of the Parkview News. I'm here today to inform you that we have just received a new playground structure. This new playground structure includes the spider web, the spinning tree, the spinning egg, some slides, and much more. Our Parkview News crew has asked a couple of people what part of the new playground they like best. We have received great feedback from our Parktastic students. Some like the new spider web, and others like the spinning egg. We couldn't have done this without your support. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And next up, we have Pia. So our next two are part of the news broadcast. They were interviewed, and they're going to talk about their part of the story.
All right.
Hi, my name is Pia, and I've been at Parkview since kindergarten. And it has been wonderful seeing the school transform over the years. I think the new playground is safer, and I've seen more use in it among the students that enjoy it so much. I'm also very grateful that you kept the dinosaur, because I know that it reminds of lots of special memories, not just in students, but also among our teachers and our Parktastic principal. I also saw the playground be constructed over the summer, and I think that is very important for those of us that did, because it represents a big part in our engineering since we are a STEM school. Thank you again so much for everything you have done for us, and I can't wait to use the new playground in my last year at Parkview.
Can I get her first name again? I didn't.
Pia.
Pia, okay, thank you.
And next up is Maddie.
Hello, my name is Maddie, and tonight I'm here to talk about how much our community is better and stronger because of our new playground. Thank you. I am a 5th grader this year, and I have been at Parkview Elementary since transitional kindergarten. I've noticed that there has been more Parktastic students using the new playground since we have gotten it. It was a great surprise to us at our Parkview Palooza event, a welcome back barbecue. Since this is my last year at Parkview Elementary, I am so excited that I get to use it before I leave. I was also happy to see they did not take the dinosaur structure because we have had it for so long. It's a special memory to us, and I hope it never leaves. I especially like the new spiderweb climbing structure because it can fit so many people, and it's great for climbing on. Also, we are very lucky to have a wheelchair accessibility area on our new playground because it allows students with special needs can access the playground too. Thanks again, and I hope you remember our school motto, wonder, explore, and leave your mark on the world.
All right.
So we just want to thank you again. The playground is a hit, and you can hear it right from the kids that are using it every day. So thank you for having us this evening.
Okay.
Madam President, could I thank them? Guys, oh yeah. I want to say you guys are making me so proud because Parkview is my family's school too. You may know Cameron, Lance, Kip, or Charlotte. You guys are such awesome speakers, and I actually am from Parkview too. When I was a student there at Parkview back in the 1970s, okay, yeah, it's that bad. One of our things in the playground was a huge pile of tires, basically old tires. So we've come a long way as a society.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Parkview too, because I went along with one of our attendance audience on the field trip today. So I'm going to ask Elaine to, talk about the field trip. We're also sore.
Yeah, so I was able to go with the 4th grade classes to Chico State. It was a wonderful walking field trip. And we were able to participate with their kinesiology department. They did different group exercises with the kids, which were a hit. And then we got to go over to the new science building. We weren't able to go inside, but the kids were outside of it. And they saw some chemistry and physics experiments. Definitely kept their attention, and they asked very good questions. I think the professor and the students that were presenting were very surprised by some of the questions because they were definitely very interested in what was going on. And it definitely speaks to what's happening at Parkview with the STEM program. It's an amazing program. It keeps those kids thinking and just very interested in their schooling. And of course, I, for one, am so grateful for Parkview and what it's done for my son. But it was a good time. Walk back was a little more difficult, but the kids had fun. It was a great time.
All right, thank you. And we appreciate the support of the teaching staff and the extra parents who walked along with the kids. Did you have a question, Caitlin?
I was wondering if this is kind of an up-and-coming thing. Doing the news is really, really special and important, especially in a smaller community, because it's a way for us to share celebrations. If you have any plans to try to reach out to our local news outlets to see if you can get any of your stories, in the big newspaper. It might be a pretty fun idea. What do you think about that? Yes? Something to try? That sounds exciting.
To build on that, we don't have a long agenda. When I was a kid, I wrote, I went on a Boy Scout outing, and I was the troop scribe, and I wrote an article about our weekend trip down to the USS Enterprise, which is an aircraft carrier. Anyway, they printed it, just Matt Tennis. So yeah, do that. If something cool happens at Parkview, I think you guys should seriously write an article about it that you should all help on, sign all your names on the bottom of it, and I'll bet you that they'll print it for sure. Yeah.
You'll
Good
probably
idea, Caitlin.
beat his article, right? That's what you want.
We'll go back and find it in the archives.
I'm sure that'll help get your classmates excited about getting involved with the newspaper,
Oh,
too,
yeah.
because it sounds like that was a goal of yours.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, all four of you.
Thank you,
Five of you.
Parkview. And thank you to the Parkview parents for coming to support as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to transition right on into the superintendent's report, and I'm going to ask Marie Hartman to come up to the microphone.
Good evening, Board. I'm here tonight to tell you about one of my employees in the Payroll Benefits Department, Corinne Carter. Corinne started in January of 2007 at Chico Unified, so she's been here close to 16 years. She began her career as an accounts payable technician and soon afterward moved into payroll coordinator position, which is running the substitute payrolls. and she's been in her current position as a benefits technician since 2015. So since Corinne started in the payroll department, we've seen a lot of changes in the way payroll and benefits operate within the district. In 2012, they changed the entire payroll accounting software system over. If anyone's been through a large software implementation, you know that's a monumental undertaking. Corinne was a big part in that. In 2013, our retirement systems changed. PERS and STIRS now separate members between Classic and PEPRA, and we have to follow different rules, charge different rates to different people. It's very confusing. In 2016, the district implemented a new substitute system and changed to electronic tracking of employee absences. Then in 2017, our health JPA moved from a self-funded model to pairing with CISC for health benefits. This expanded the menu of different health plan choices from 4 to 21, with different choices for different bargaining units, choice for dental vision, multiple value-added benefits. So it's safe to say Corinne's job has changed a lot in the last 10 years. Throughout all the changes, Corinne's really been my go-to person because she's really not afraid of change. She's an analytical thinker, and she works tirelessly to ensure that items that pass through the payroll department are handled accurately. She also jumps in to help her coworkers whenever there's a hole to plug. My favorite thing, though, about Corinne is something you probably already know about her. She's not only my go-to person, she's the go-to person for anything benefits related for all 1,500 employees at Chico Unified, and that's well known. You wouldn't believe the volume of calls and emails she handles a day, especially during open enrollment time. She answers the same questions over and over. I can hear her right outside my office. Corinne really cares about each and every employee and really strives to make things right when something happens in insurance. Some of those things can be really sensitive, and she handles it with really great tact. She also makes every attempt to help educate our employees about their benefits, the importance of plan choices, and making their individual choices work for them. So for all these reasons, I'm really delighted to present Corinne with the Superintendent's Award.
And I'm going to tell you something you might not know. She's also a champion weightlifter.
True story. All these things. Where am I going?
On the side.
Yes. There we go. And I guess I'll hold this the right direction.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right. Congratulations. Now I'd like to invite up Emily Mullins.
Good evening. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to recognize one of my outstanding teachers at Hooker Oak Elementary School, Laura Holman, as the recipient of the Superintendent's Award. Laura is one of the most hardworking, passionate educators that I've ever had the privilege of working with. She wears so many hats at Hooker Oak School. She is, among many others, the MTSS site lead, Title I teacher, PBIS lead, teacher in charge, SBIT coordinator, and I'm probably leaving out millions of others. She is able to manage all of the duties and the responsibilities of these positions with ease, grace, and always a positive attitude. As a visionary leader, I greatly appreciate having somebody on my team who can help to make all of those crazy visions that we have a reality, and that person is definitely Laura. I especially appreciate that we're almost always on the same page. I can always count on her to hear me out when I have an idea or an aspiration, and then she can just take it and run with it and expand on it and make an action plan develop overnight to make that crazy vision a reality. She's definitely a go-getter. Last fall, I mentioned to her that I wanted to find a more effective way for us to measure our students' number sense in math. More specifically, to really find out where the holes were so that we could really make a positive impact on the math instruction of our students and provide some targeted intervention. Laura took this on as her project for her evaluation. We worked together to find and then to pilot a number sense screener, and then to align our number sense activities to the results from that screener. This work caught the attention of 3 other teachers who then joined Laura to make that their evaluation project as well. When Laura and the team shared the results of our fall screener, what started out as a pilot ended up bringing the attention of the importance of that project to the whole staff, and we were able to generate buy-in from 100% of our teachers. As a result, 100% of our teachers used that same screener in the spring, and we continue to use it with 100% fidelity in the fall. She's been sharing our experience with the screener at DLC and in other professional circles, and has helped other teachers and site leads to implement this powerful tool. It's one of the many things that makes Laura so amazing. She's always so giving of her time and her expertise, and she never asks for anything in return. Laura's work is never confined to the typical work week. I frequently get emails and texts from her on the weekends, during breaks, even when she's on vacation. She's always excited to share something that she's been working on, or for me to take a look at data that she's just inputted, because she just knows that I'm going to geek out over it like she does. I have given up on telling her not to work on the weekends, because I've realized that she doesn't view what she's doing as work. It really is a passion. She always tells me, it's for the kids. I like doing this. She's passionate about the work that she does, and it's fun for her to take a project, run with it, and then turn it into something transformational. I'm beyond proud of Laura and all the work that she has done for our Mighty Oaks community. She makes me a better leader, and she makes our school a better place. Thank you, Laura, for pouring your heart and your soul into your work and into our school. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Congratulations on receiving this honor.
Stand in the middle. All righty. You gotta hold it around so yeah. I did the same thing. All right. Congratulations. Here you go. No picture. So congratulations, Corinne and Laura, and thank you for all you do for our district. It's really appreciated. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Madam President.
Okay, so we're at announcements, and I have an announcement on the Parade of Lights. I was one of the judges. As hopefully you know, we had a 2-year hiatus, and so this year, coming back to it, the crowds were very large and enthusiastic, and the number of schools that had a parade part was quite notable. Unfortunately, because it was a new group that took over handling it, they haven't yet added our scores up to declare the winners. And so I was going to tell you the winners, and I can't yet, but they're hoping to have them by the end of the week. But I will say that the very happy 100% participation on the floats was quite notable. And since the theme was unity in community, I think that was a really good place for us to exhibit our school spirit. So I do want to congratulate all the schools that had floats or parade parts. So, and I hope we do. I hope I was going to announce it, and now I can't. So, okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to inform everybody that next Saturday, not this Saturday, but October 29th is Butte County-wide Climate Action Day, or Day of Climate Action. So there's a number of volunteer opportunities for people of all ages to plant trees, work on community composting. There's a bus being chartered from DeGarmo Park in Chico up the ridge to do some work up in Paradise and Magalia area. So if that intrigues anybody to get involved, it's a California Volunteers Initiative, and we are looking for a big turnout. It's a collaborative between many partners in the area, including folks from Chico State, Butte County Fire Safe Council, Butte Environmental Council, and we just hope to turn some more volunteers out.
All right, anyone else? All right, okay, so thank you for that. So items from the floor. Do we have a speaker?
We do. We have one person, and that is Sean Mossman.
And Sean, I'll just remind you, as I do everyone, that it's a 3-minute total, and Jim will alert you with 30 seconds to go, okay?
Thank you. My name's Sean Mossman. I have a daughter at Pleasant Valley High School. To the board, I have trouble with a policy that says anybody of the opposite sex can demand to be present and observe my daughter in her intimate moments, and with officials who value the desires of a few more than the modesty and dignity of all children in their care. A schoolboy in Philadelphia was instructed by an administrator in 2017 to tolerate it and make it as natural as possible after he objected to being forced to undress in front of the opposite sex. He was at his locker in the boys' locker room, standing in his underwear, when he suddenly became aware of a girl standing next to him in her underwear. This scenario has already played out many times over in the Chico Unified School District. Just deal with it seems to be the current policy and practice for Pleasant Valley High School and the Chico Unified School District. My daughter discovered that she was sharing a locker room and shower area with members of the opposite sex only after several days of doing so. She felt compromised, uncomfortable, and violated. She had been set up and hung out to dry by those who were in charge of looking after her. Looking out for my daughter and making sure she is secure and valued is my job. During school hours, you stand in my place, and I have to trust that you will take up that responsibility. You did not. My daughter was vulnerable, her modesty and her dignity compromised. You gave us no choice. You gave us no warning. How would a husband respond to someone who forced his wife to undress in front of another man? This is being forced on my daughter and on the young people in our school district. I have worked with young people in faith-based organizations for 40 years. I know that statistically there must be scores of children at all levels in the Chico Unified School District who have already been abused, violated, molested, even raped by those who were charged with protecting them. For them, school was a refuge, a safe place. This is no longer true. Please provide some kind of remedy. We are people of faith. Your inaction has forced my daughter to perform acts that not only violate her body and her mind, but have forced her to violate her deeply held religious beliefs as well. Please consider what options might be given to my daughter and the thousands of other students affected by this unfortunate law, AB 1266. Remember, every war criminal uses the excuse, "My hands were tied." I was just following order. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. So with that, we will move on to, excuse me, the approval of the consent calendar. Is there anyone who wishes to pull an item from the consent calendar? Yes.
I'd like to pull item 8.1.1.
3.1?
8.1.1, the minutes from
Oh,
last
the
board
minutes,
meeting.
okay. Anyone else? I would like to pull 8.3.2, approval of contracts. Okay. So with those two exceptions, may I have a motion?
I'll move adoption of the.
Okay, so
consent
Tom
calendar.
Lando moves
I'll second it.
and Eileen seconds, okay?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge that there are 7 field trip requests on this, and I think it's really exciting that our athletes and also 5th graders from Chapman Elementary get to get off campus and have some adventures. So happy to see that in the minutes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so is there anyone from the audience that wants to comment? All right. So without that, we will take a individual vote. Eileen?
Robinson, I.
Lando, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Dalby, aye.
Tennis, aye.
Okay, 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we move to the first pulled item, and that's 8.1.1.
Thanks. I pulled 8.1.1, the meetings from last, the minutes from last meeting. I was not in person in attendance or on the voting rolls for that meeting, so it's appropriate for me to not vote for this item.
Okay, so you're recusing yourself? All right, and that's 10-5, right? Okay. So let's separate the vote then. All those approving of the minutes of the regular board meeting on 9/21?
We don't have a motion to do that.
Oh,
Yeah, I think maybe it would be best to make a motion to
Okay.
approve one and,
I move approval of 8.1.1.
okay. Split?
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
I don't think we need to split, it's fine
Oh,
if I don't
all
vote
right.
for both of them.
Okay, so 8.1.1 is moved by Tom and second by Eileen. All those in favor signify by saying their name.
Robinson, aye.
Lando, I.
Kaiser, aye.
Tennis, aye.
Okay, and we have one recuse. Oh, wait a minute, on 9 point, oh, because they're together, never mind, got it. Okay, all right, so we have a 4 and then a recusal, so 4-1. Okay, we move down to the 8.3.2, the approval of contracts. And the reason I pulled that is we have a contract with Butte College about what courses that we are going to use, where they are in agreement in terms of recognizing them for university credit. And then we got a revision to that. And so the question I have is, it never said what 2 courses were going to come off.
Yes, the 2 courses are EDCI and CH. These are two courses that are going to continue, but they reduce the number of sections due to enrollment. So the courses will still continue.
Oh.
There just wasn't enough enrollment for the number of sections that were estimated by Butte College when the original addendum was written in 2021.
Okay, so what are the 2 classes then?
I'm going to pull those up. CSCI 49 and EH 20. And we just reduced the number of sections allocated, but there are sections of that course still being offered.
Okay, okay. All right, so with that clarification, can I have a motion?
I move approval of item 8.3.2, considering approval of the contracts.
Seconded.
Okay, moved by Dalton and approved, seconded by Lando. Okay, so all those in favor signify by giving their name.
Robinson, aye.
Lando, I.
Kaiser, aye.
Dalby, aye.
Tennis, aye.
Okay, 5-0. All right, great, thank you very much. With that, we move to the discussion action calendar. Education services are first.
So this is just a further approval of that addendum to be sure that as we move forward each year, some adjustments are made. This is just a simple approval of the same addendum for the Butte College CCAP, and we're asking for board approval so the students can continue to receive dual enrollment opportunities at Butte College.
I hate to be nitpicky, but item 1 is on the agenda as informational.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can move it today.
Yeah, you don't have
Sorry.
to,
Sorry,
yeah,
no.
we don't have to vote.
Okay.
No, sorry, not for approval, just for information.
Thank you for the valuable information.
Any questions?
I have a comment. I'll just say I think this kind of thing is really valuable. You know, we're talking about high schoolers taking college level courses, right?
Yes.
Yeah, totally great. Totally great. I
Absolutely
encourage
so.
anybody to do it.
Thank you.
All right, so with that, thank you, John. And you might as well stand where you are.
I plan to.
So we move to item on the discussion action 9.2, graduation credit requirement adjustment.
Yeah, so just a little background information. We've been having these conversations about a block schedule for quite a long time now. Some people would say for decades. We have made some progress. We piloted a block schedule at Chico High a year ago, and highly successful in growing some program enrollment there. We were able to add another school, Pleasant Valley High School, piloted it this year. They have a slightly different schedule with an anchor day. Again, though, trying to work out some of the bugs of a block schedule and gain as much information as they can, because in January, the timeline as it stands right now is to have each school vote on a schedule that's going on a block schedule, an 8-period day that would work for their school site. That's a union administration conversation that continues to evolve. We've been working diligently. Jim Hanlon and his staff have been creating an MOU that we think will address as many issues as we can possibly think of related to a block schedule. We know we're gonna have some things down the road that we're gonna have to consider. But from an academic perspective and from a board perspective, a block schedule should, in our opinion, necessitate a graduation requirement change. If we stay at 235 credits, we could have a significant number of students graduating early. Some of our programs might not have a 3-course sequence, so we think we need to increase the graduation requirement. However, we don't want it to be too high, or just negating many of the 14 student dilemmas that we were able to address when we had this conversation about a block schedule in the past, such as students being able to take multiple electives in one school year, students having the opportunity to not have to leave their comprehensive site. If they struggle in a course and need to retake it, they can stay right there. So there's some impacts, obviously, to the block schedule and credit requirements, but we feel like 250 is kind of the sweet spot for us to still motivate students to stay enrolled, to stay involved, stay engaged, yet still give us financial flexibility. So for example, what we're proposing right now is there's a possibility, if voted in by CUTA in January, that seniors could not take 2 classes, so they would take 6 of 8, which would be a significantly financially impactful for us. Juniors might only need to take 7 of 8 instead of all 8. So just to provide some flexibility, with the idea there that those students could then go take more courses at Butte College during times that are more advantageous for them. They could work. There are different, we think some obvious positive consequences of that. When we surveyed districts of our size, so similar sized districts who have an 8-period block schedule, they ranged from 240 to 280. And we felt like 250 when we spoke with a couple of regionally similar districts. 250 was, we felt, the sweet spot to start with. We don't think we should have to come back to the board a year or 2 years from now. We may have to, but we think 250 is about where we should be. Yeah.
When would what graduating class would that be implemented with?
Thank you. This is an antiquated phrase, but we would grandfather people or classes in as they joined our high school ranks. So this current 8th grade class would come in with 250. One of the issues, I'll say loosely, that we still need to work out is how that aligns with our alt-ed campus and the credits back and forth. But we have some models out there that we know work, and we'll be trying to work our way through those.
Any other questions? Eileen?
Not so much a question as a comment. I was around decades ago along with you, sir. And I do remember that we got information about Rockland specifically, is what I remembered. Are they one of the 250 examples that's still, so they've been there for a while, and it seems to have worked for them at 250. One of the concerns that that I had as we got started in this was the downtime for especially the seniors who may think, oh, well, a hiatus by doing the shorter thing and then move into college or a 4-year university college experience and got hit with, oh my gosh, I do have to get up at 8 o'clock and I do have to, be on task for more hours. And so I do support the increase. That's enough. I do support the increase.
Okay. All right.
I got a question, Madam President. It may not be at all germane. In fact, I think it probably isn't to this agenda item, really, other than that you've mentioned, we've talked about people not being there, seniors and juniors, having a period off, basically. Is there any way to ensure or encourage that they actually are doing something productive and not just going off to recreate somewhere during that time?
Ensure is a tough word. I think encourage and actually show them the advantages of staying engaged, even for 8 periods. We realize the flexibility is important to the bottom line. I know Jacqueline's going to make sure that happens. However, realistically, if they want to be competitive for a UC track or a CSU track, or even some of our trade school tracks, they may still need to stay in schools 8 periods because, for example, manufacturing is a significantly impacted program at Butte College. And if they aren't showing how they're highly engaged in their studies, manufacturing or welding, they're not going to be eligible to join that wait list.
And if they do stick around, that's a financial negative for us, right?
A little bit, that student would then have to be put into a section that we have there. So as long as the student takes 6 of 8, we still get ADA.
Okay.
So that's the minimum they would have to take in order to get average day attendance funding for that, and that allows that flexibility.
Thank you.
I do want to ensure that we are not going to be encouraging students to only take 6 or only take 7. Just that there is that flexibility if there's something else that interests them during that time.
And they would need parent permission to
Correct.
sign off on their schedule.
100% unless they're 18, yeah.
Would they need parent permission if they're 18?
No,
Thank you.
very few of them are, but no, they would not. They would not need it.
Caitlin?
Would you say that there may be also an advantage to not pressuring students to make sure they do something super productive with that time if they do take a period off? Maybe they're doing college applications or just unwinding their brain, because sometimes when you get to that point in high school, you just need, that hour break before you go to soccer practice or whatever it might be.
I think some of that's going to happen organically.
Can you record yourself making a speech to them that they all have to watch before they get the time off?
You know what? I wouldn't put anyone through that. Have to watch a video of me.
All right, so this is an action item, and we do need to consider this in time so that we have the incoming students aware of what the expectations are going to be. So we can do this by a voice vote. Oh, is there any public comment on this one? All right, don't see any. Okay, so all those in favor of changing our, what? Oh,
I'll move adoption of the graduation credit requirement adjustment as presented.
I'll second it.
okay, moved by Tom, seconded by Caitlin. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. And did you say aye?
I didn't. I was running
Oh.
through my head really quick to make sure that we could do just a unison
Oh,
voice vote.
okay,
Sorry.
so that was 5 ayes, okay. All right, Julie.
Good evening, thank you. So I'm back again. I will be back at every regular meeting to update you on the Parkview Emergency Portable Project until it is 100% complete. I do have an update that the lighting has been received. It was ordered after you approved the lighting at the last board meeting, and it has been received, and it will be installed the weekend of October 29th. And so that will leave the ramps on the front and the back of the portable that need to be replaced with the permanent ramps. And we've decided to do that over the Thanksgiving holiday, so it would be less impactful for students. So you will be hearing about this again next month at the regular meeting. Any questions?
Okay, I don't see any questions. May I have a motion then?
Do we need to take action?
No. you-
Sounded kind of
you don't.
informational.
It's just information.
I move that we thank Julie for her presentation.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so I guess we're good on that then. All right, so Julie, you have then the second one.
Right, so the district put out bidding documents, informal bidding documents for additional fencing at Chico High School. I'm sorry, the diagram is on the screen. I thought you might want to see what we're talking about. Right. I don't have my glasses on, so I'll try to describe it for you. We installed fencing on the backside of Chico High School many years ago with a different administration that had different concerns at the time. The administration now would like to have the parking lot, formerly was the student parking lot at Chico High School, and I think the seniors do park there now, as well as staff. They want to have a fence that divides the parking lot from the soccer field and the girls' varsity softball field. So we would be adding fencing to separate those two areas and removing the fence that currently runs between Inspire School of Arts and Sciences and the sport field to create a more open area. And we also included in the bidding fencing for the Chico High varsity softball field. That would not be funded the same as the security fencing. That would be funded directly by Chico High Sports Boosters, but we included it in our bidding so that they could get that pricing. So I don't know if you guys can see that or if you have any questions about the fencing.
Can you indicate where the fencing is that is going to be removed?
Yes. All be new, and then the softball fencing will be new as well. But as I mentioned, not funded through Fund 42, which is redevelopment dollars we're proposing we utilize for the fencing project. So we put the project out for bid. Informally, we received 2 bids, one from Northern California Fence, that's a local company here in Chico, and the other from Crusader Fence in Sacramento. Crusader was at $169,558, and Northern California Fence was at $93,000.
Oh, all right.
So we would recommend we enter agreement with Northern California Fence.
Another
This
question.
is an 8-foot-high chain link fence.
So, security-wise for the main campus, where's the security on the backside of Chico High from a fence standpoint?
It is completely fenced.
So we, are considering Warner Street. There's a fence on Warner Street. Would that be the only fence between somebody on Warner Street and the main campus, the main buildings of the Chico High campus?
Yes.
That's very far away. That's a big area to encompass with a fence for security purposes. And right now, you have the Inspire fence that we're taking out. Does it connect from, oh gosh, what is it over there in Mansion Park neighborhood? Basically the
Yes.
tennis courts?
The tennis courts
all the
on
way
Lincoln
to the
Avenue.
parking lot?
No, it goes to a gate at the student parking lot, yes,
Right.
yes.
So that's a fence that currently, covers basically the west side of the main Chico High campus, right?
Yes,
And we're talking about taking that out.
yes, it's been requested that it be removed.
And it's going to be replaced by a fence that is all the way over on Warner Street.
It's on the interior of the parking lot, not on West Sacramento Avenue. So it goes along the soccer field on the interior of the parking lot.
Mhm. But it stops right there at, yes. Mhm. But if somebody was out by the football field, where your hand is right now, and if they wanted to walk onto the main Chico High campus, which is about close to a quarter mile or solidly a quarter mile away, they would be no fence.
The stadium itself is fenced separately
Yeah.
from the open space grass field. So if they got into the stadium, they would have to go over a fence,
Mhm.
then the grassy field, and then they would have access to it.
So the vicinity of the softball field, or the baseball field, sorry, the famous, with the famous red fence. If they were near there, they would be on campus essentially at that point.
That's correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or discussion points?
Matt looked like he was thinking through something to ask another question.
I am. I'm feeling like this is maybe from a security standpoint less secure. Would you disagree with that?
I don't know that I agree or disagree with that. I think that the campus was looking for better circulation and not to have kids, students stopped from going from the main campus out onto the grassy field, that they would have to go through a gate to get out for PE. So I think it was more of a operational request from them that fence come down, that it's in the way.
Sort of
Kelly,
like
do you have anything to add? Because I think you were at the meeting where they requested that.
I think it's more of a, as you mentioned, a pedestrian flow. I believe they worked with Inspire on this as well, and Inspire also was in support of that change. I don't believe the issue of, does this provide an additional layer of security? I don't believe that was an issue that came up at that meeting.
there have been people who have come on campuses, resulting in things like lockdowns and stuff like that. Has there anybody ever come onto the Chico High campus that resulted in a lockdown?
Jim's probably better equipped to answer this than I am. We have had lockdowns, obviously, at Chico High. I don't believe they came from that direction. I think we had some coming off of Esplanade, and just more of a cautionary.
Yeah, I don't recall any when I was principal. The main issue was traffic through the middle of our campus. As Julie said earlier on, the concerns were different back then. Walking directly through the campus, it was a thoroughfare for students going from where they lived over to Chico State and back again. And so there was fencing put up along the south side of the campus, and that helped stem that flow. Since then, the fencing that Julie's talking about taking down was put up behind Inspire. Personally, as a former principal, and if I were still principal there, I don't see it as security-wise any different, because there's still fencing elsewhere to prevent people from coming on campus. They could just as easily come through the fencing where it currently is behind Inspire. In fact, the fencing behind Inspire, if I recall, is much shorter than the fencing along Warner and along West Sacramento Avenue. So it would be actually easier to scale. I don't know how tall the fencing will be along the parking lot, but was it 8 feet?
The new fencing will be 8 feet. That
So
is included in the
that's
contract.
pretty good fencing.
And then between the parking lot, refresh my memory, and the Chico State, or no, the stadium parking lot, I guess it is now. It used to, once upon a time, was it maybe a Chico State parking lot? This is where we park if we want to go to places like the Almond Bowl. How tall is that fencing? Because that's effectively, anybody wanting to come on campus could come that way. Same thing on the other side, along Memorial Way or whatever it is over there in
I
Mansion Park.
believe it's 8 feet, but I honestly would have to measure it for you.
Okay.
I know that the perimeter of the parking lot along Warner and West Sac, that fencing is quite old, and it's probably 6 or 7 feet, but the stadium fencing that was done as part of the construction is probably 8 feet.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. All right. So Eileen, did you have something?
I just comment, just to remind us that we made a decision a while back about collecting developer fees. Whoa, I have glasses on my face? About collecting developer fees. We are using developer fees to do this modification. I thought you indicated.
No, developer fees are Fund 25, and this is
Yeah.
Fund 42. This is redevelopment.
Never mind.
Sorry about that.
I did not catch that there was a difference in those two terms. So what I was thinking about doesn't apply. I was, just at the Almond Bowl, and I don't remember that the parking lot fence between what used to be the Chico State parking lot was as insignificant as some of the other fence. I think it was pretty tall next to where I had to exit. Yeah, I support this move.
I think this situation, if I may, Madam President,
Yeah.
be recognized, really pokes at a value that for me is on the table right now as we look at, modernizing our campuses, which we're always doing. Aesthetically, it'd be nicer if we didn't have fences around at all, because we could stand at the back door of our school buildings and we could see a beautiful green field with a lot of beautiful trees and be at one with our community. But I could imagine this fence we're taking out, being protecting people. If you had a lockdown, you're dealing with a smaller area, easier to monitor. There's going to be times when there's going to be nobody out there in that vast expanse of a field, and I think it is a vast expanse. I went to school there. I think I have a good memory of it. It's a big area to keep track of, and this fence we're taking out, I feel, probably makes the campus more secure. And so I am concerned. I would actually when it comes time to make a motion, I think I might move that we maybe put this off so we can look at that aspect of it.
So am I correct, Julie, that both Chico High and Inspire were interested in that fence being removed, that one section?
Yes.
Yes?
I have another clarifying question. The fence with the little clouds around it, what's the height of that fence?
6 foot.
It's 6? Okay, thank you.
Is that it right there? Is that a gate on the 6-footer?
Julie, is there a fence right now between the student parking lot and those PE fields?
No, there's a series of big bollards that run along there, and
Keep cars off.
see them in the black dots.
Right.
Across here, and then they go to the north up to West Sacramento. They're probably every 10 or 12 feet apart.
So I just wanted to respond to something Matt had said. Students from PE are out there all the time, so that's pretty much open for anyone coming in off the street. So eliminating the fence behind Inspire and fencing in the parking lot actually makes that portion of the campus safer because people on the street don't have access to those fields. Just looking at it from a principal's perspective and security.
I have a question, Julie. What was I could probably think back on some conversations, but is there a protocol for using the chain link fencing versus something else? Or is that just standard what's being used now, cost-wise, et cetera?
Yes, that's a standard, cost-wise, certainly for chain link. If it's not at the primary entrance of the campus, where we're using a more aesthetically pleasing fencing and gates at the entryway, the rest of the campuses are chain link. They do finish it with if you go back to that photograph, Phil, at the top, you can barely see it in my photo, but they finish it with the sharp part at the top, so that it discourages people from climbing over the top. So as the chain comes together, it has these barbs on the top that are just part of the chain link, but they install it that way on purpose to try to discourage people from climbing over it and tearing their clothes or cutting themselves on it.
Do we have a motion?
We need to go to public comment if we're done with the discussion portion.
Is there any public comment? All right, don't see any, so a motion then?
Yeah, I'll move approval of the accepting or of
Okay,
the bid
Tom
process.
moves approval.
I'll second that and comment that the one comment that I heard that was most persuasive is the increase of security because of where it's being moved further out so that the students that are participating on those fields have more fencing protection than with the current configuration of that 6-foot fence at Inspire. That, to me, weighs toward my decision.
Well, right now, students who use the parking lot have no fencing.
Right.
Okay.
A clarification, the student parking lot's outside of the perimeter fencing, right?
Correct. And not to complicate matters worse, but we did look at, years ago and more recently, fencing the whole parking lot in. You know, fencing having gates where you come and go. But the West Sacramento Avenue simply doesn't have enough shoulder room for cars to stop and have a gate open and drive in. It would be a real traffic safety issue. So the best thing that we thought we could do is put the fence on the perimeter of the parking lot, as shown in the sketch.
I'm sorry, I have another question I didn't have during the discussion portion, but what's the timeline on this, the urgency or like why now and not some other time?
Well, as you can imagine, we get requests that come in all the time to facilities and to our maintenance and operations department. Administrators from all of the schools are super interested in securing their sites as much as possible. Things happen that maybe they have a difficult time supervising a certain area, and they ask for our assistance in addressing it. And that's how this came about, as I'm sure that the administration at Chico High realized that they have a vulnerability there, so they've requested that we put this fencing in to address that vulnerability. And so they haven't said we absolutely must have it next week, but we take that as an indication that it is a priority that we need to take care of for them.
What's the vulnerability?
So if you drove into the parking lot, you could walk right onto the soccer field.
The field. Mm-hmm.
The field, the baseball fields, the softball fields, that whole area is open. So this would be fencing that area off.
Okay. I would offer an amendment that we approve this, but not proceed with removing the shorter fence at this time. So I guess I'm offering that as a friendly amendment.
Could you repeat that, Matt? I didn't hear what you said.
I'm just reluctant to remove the 6-foot fence at this time, personally. You know, I'd like to be assured that the campus will be as safe without it. And so I'm offering an amendment that we would move forward on this, that's already been moved, but that we would keep the shorter fence for the time being until we're able to, assess the safety of I guess what I consider to be maybe the nucleus of the Chico High campus, which is the buildings where, most of the people are.
So if you want to put that to a vote, that would be fine. That's not friendly. Look, this has been gone, it's a fence. It's been gone over by facilities, it's been gone over by the administration. I trust you guys. We have spent 30 minutes talking about moving a fence. Let's just trust our administration and get it done.
Okay, I'd like to go to a vote on that, please.
Okay, so an amendment's been suggested. It's not viewed as friendly, correct? Okay, so we would have to vote on the amendment.
Don't you need a second to bring it to a vote?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Sorry. Is there a second? Okay, seeing no second, we move back to the original motion, and that is to include the 8-foot fence at Chico High and remove the 6-foot fence that is currently separating off Inspire.
I have a comment.
Yes.
So my only hesitation in making this decision offer right now is the fact that we are revisiting our facilities master plan in the context of school safety and just being able to take into consideration that perimeter fence. I have no problem with removing the 6-foot fence. I understand the kind of the ergonomics of campus flow and the need for the desire to remove that. However, the chain link fence is a cost-effective measure, but, you know, where is the cost benefit, you know, line when we're considering type of fence and aesthetic and not aesthetic? Like, I'm not worried about aesthetic, more of like what's most safe but for a reasonable amount. And I know that that's going to be a discussion that comes up in our facilities master plan meetings. That's the only reason why I'm like, what, does it have to happen now? But I do like the idea, obviously, of closing off campus so that our fields are not accessible while we have, especially while we have students out there, to just anybody who can walk from off campus onto campus. So that's the only hesitation I have, is just the type of fence that's being installed when we have this much bigger conversation to have about types of fencing and, you know, trying to make our budget be a little bit more robust to be able to afford a potentially more secure fencing system and phase that in over however many decades it might take.
Julie, what's the timing of even the first review of the master plan?
I'm meeting with them tomorrow to lay out the schedule, but
Okay.
Our first meeting will occur very quickly.
But they weren't supposed to bring us, the board, suggestions until we have.
The first meeting to kick off the development of the master plan will occur shortly. The overall approval will occur in March.
So that is almost 6 months? Yeah.
The cost difference between a chain link fence and the decorative metal fencing is quite significant. I did measure all of the perimeter fencing for all of our campuses. It's a little bit doubled up because we already have some of that decorative metal fencing already, but it's not 8 foot high. It's considerably shorter. Was over $9.5 million to replace. So it is very expensive undertaking to do that around all of our schools.
Sure. Knowing the difference per square foot would be better for me when you say $9 million. I have no idea how much, if you're talking about every single square foot of fencing that we currently have to replace, and that's neither here nor there right now. But my question is maybe something I should just research on my own, and that is, what is the research behind the level of safety when it comes to keeping people out when comparing types of fence? Again, I don't care that it's decorative. That's not important to me. It's what's keeping people from coming onto campuses that we don't necessarily want to be there.
Right. So the decorative fencing is just perceived as less climbable because it has the vertical pickets. So that's why I was using it as an example.
And I think that the word perceived is important there, which is why, you know, I just want to know what does the research say, you know? And that is really going to be a topic for looking at the facilities master plan, I think, just to kind of lay that part of the discussion to rest. Thank you for clarifying everything else. Sure.
I want to say that I don't imagine this district ever just taking out our checkbook and writing a big check for non-scalable decorative fencing around every single campus. You know, my vision for that would be something that would happen as we move forward, incrementally. I just want to clarify that for you. $10.5 million, you say, is what it would cost to do the whole kit and caboodle in Chico Unified? $9.5 million? Yeah. I mean, that doesn't sound so out of this world, but still, it's not really my thought. It's simply that we sort of take logical steps as we go forward.
Eileen?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple more questions of clarification. I'm concerned that there is access without a fence from the parking lot onto the playfields now. If we approve this tonight, accept the bid, and we go ahead, we then provide that fence as the barrier between the parking lot and unfettered access to our playfields, and then, the playfield is campus. Did I miss something there, or is that in fact what this would do if we approve it tonight? And what's the timeframe for having this started and completed so that we do have a fence between the parking lot and our playfields?
You're correct in what you're asserting, and it would be 60 days, it would be complete.
Thank you.
So not before Halloween, but before New Year's. Okay. All right. We've had a pretty long discussion. We have a motion that's been seconded.
I call for the question, Madam President.
All right. So, all those in favor of the item 2 on the contracts signify by saying aye.
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 All those against?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so 4-1. All right. And I'll look forward to the prickly new fence. Okay, so now we bring up Sharice. An unaudited actuals. It was a nightmare to read.
Yeah.
I mean, a nightmare.
All right, Sharice and I are here to present the 21-22 unaudited actuals. The unaudited actuals report represents actual revenues and expenditures for the last fiscal year. It's not a budget, it's the true financial performance. And these numbers are presented before the annual audit is complete. The auditors were out a couple of weeks ago, so we're on track to get that one complete by the deadline. Okay, so you guys are used to seeing this slide. It's changed a little bit. So let's look at 21-22, because that's the year we're talking about. 21-22 was funded on greater of prior or current year. If you look at 2021, that was the same as 1920. That's because 2021, we didn't report ADA because of all of the changes happening because of COVID. So 1920 was that last year. So we've had the same funding basically for 3 years. Now, looking into the future, we have the recent measure that is going to allow us to use the average of the 3 prior years for our prior year number, which really you can see in prior slides that we've showed you, it looked more like a funding cliff, where this really, that using the average really smooths it out, even though we are still projecting declining enrollment. All right, on the income statement, there's just a couple of things I wanted to point out. First of all, the bottom line is what we're looking at. So unrestricted change in fund balance, we're at 5.3 million in positive. Restricted change in fund balance, 3.9, so a total of 9.2 positive change in fund balance this year. The other thing I wanted to point out is our restricted funds are significantly higher than they usually are, and that's because of the influx of COVID dollars that we've received. So there's something on that I want to point out on the next slide too. Okay, so this is our little pie chart of total revenue. So when I was looking at this, I took a look at what we reported to you in 1920. And in 1920, the local control funding formula was 75% of the total pie. And now it's at 47%. And that's not because our LCFF has gone down, that's just because of the COVID dollars that came into state and federal revenues. On the expenditure side, these numbers didn't really change dramatically, and that's because we used a lot of the COVID dollars on staffing, and staffing is the biggest part of our expenditures, as usual. And when you add in the special ed contribution, which is mainly salaries as well, salaries and benefits is 90% of our total expenses. And that's consistent in, when I looked back at 1920 as well. And then this last slide is our COVID relief funding. So on this one, we received 56 million. And after 21-22 last year, now we have 21.9 remaining. We are required to spend 5 to 6 million by 9/30/23 next year, and then the remaining 15 to 16 million we need to spend by 9/30/24. In reality, we're projecting to spend about 18 million in this school year of it. So we will only have about 5 million or 3 million remaining to spend in the out years.
Alrighty, good evening, board. So this next slide is going to compare, the last budget we brought to you was in June, and that was our estimated actuals for 21-22. So what we like to do when we come and present how we actually ended the year is compare estimated actuals with unaudited actuals. So if you notice, there are a couple differences. I'll go over in the next slide the reasons for those. But the change in fund balance down at the bottom, the difference between estimated actuals and unaudited actuals is only $462,000. When you consider our large budget, that's pretty close. So a couple of the big differences between what we call EA and UA is local revenue. The difference on that is our fair market value adjustment that we had to make. We get the calculation from the county that basically says if we had to close all of our books right now, what would our cash value be? And as everyone knows, the volatility of the market right now, usually we're very close to 100% on that adjustment. It was 96.78 this year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have a $55 million balance, it's a huge adjustment. Salaries and benefits, health and welfare, all of those are due to either overestimations, if we were a little too conservative when we did our estimated actuals, and then also salaries and benefits differences for payout for prep days. We had teachers that decided to not take their prep days, and so we paid them out for that at the end of the year.
Okay, so HW is health and welfare?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, what's the?
Yeah, gotta love all the acronyms. Books and supplies, that big difference is due to just delivery. When do we actually get things? And we try to estimate as close as possible, but as everyone knows, we've been dealing with supply chain issues, so some items weren't received before June 30th. Capital outlay, same thing with that. Shade structure projects that we were hoping were going to be done by June 30th, just were delayed until August. And then transfers and contributions, that one was a lot lower due to the difference in special ed. And the reason that our contribution was a lot lower was because of one-time funding that we received from both the state and feds for special ed programs. So that took a little bit of the hit off of us for our contribution.
Because they're giving us less?
Because they're giving us more. So our contribution actually went down for special ed between when we came to you with our budget and where we closed the books.
Okay.
Okay. So next, we like to explain to you our transfers in. So that RDA pass-through for RRMA, that's per ed code, we have to give them 3% for RRMA, for our maintenance and operations department to run. That's 3% of our total expenditures in the general fund. So that's required per ed code. That's that 3.4 million. Developer fees, as we've seen the last few years, and it has not dipped, developer fees in Chico are amazing. We are having huge collections, and so that's 3% that we basically get as an admin support for the general fund to help all the supports that we give for collecting the developer fees and helping our community. Contributions for restricted programs, normally we just have those top two there. So it's special ed and RRMA. The three, Title I, Title II, and Title III, those were unforeseen. That was part of our federal program monitoring that we had last fall. So we've been explaining that to you guys along the way, but unfortunately there were some unallowed costs in those federal programs that we had to basically repay out of the general fund. Okay, so this chart shows us our unrestricted ending fund balance year over year.
As you can see, the 21-22 ending fund balance, we have very healthy reserves and are unrestricted. That kind of purple bar that says other commitments, that was the amount that Jacqueline brought to you in December. And the good thing about this is it's going to help us weather the storm. All of the articles and everything that we're hearing right now is that there are a lot of signs for a recession. And so this will help us a lot so that we can help take on the costs of PERS and STIRS. Our special ed program keeps growing. So all of those increased costs, we will be able to weather that. Yes, Matt?
Is 3% like the maximum we can save?
No. So I'm sorry, what 3% are you talking about? Because we have a lot of different.
Reserve for economic uncertainty.
Oh, I
3%.
see. No, so we actually, on top of the reserve for economic uncertainties, all of those other categories that we have are parts of our ending fund balance, but we actually have unassigned of 9 million on top of that. So what we try to do is that top orange bar, we try to make sure that we also have a buffer on top of the 3%. I believe the reserve for economic uncertainties, the 3% is per ed code.
Yeah, so for clarification, the 3% is required by the state of California for a school district our size to have a minimum of a 3% reserve.
But we have more.
This board has
Way
taken
more.
action to do an
Yes.
additional 2%, which is the yellow or canary color.
Okay. And a reserve could be analogous to cash in the bank.
Yeah,
Savings account.
Yeah, our
Savings
I
account.
consider this the district savings account.
And that's the max. I remember this conversation, but there's a limit, right? You're not allowed to just save a whole bunch of money, right? You have to spend your money.
You have to spend your money, but if you commit, so there's a maximum for a district our size, there's a maximum of 10%, but if the board takes action to commit, that is exempted from the 10%.
So Matt, that's that purple bar that Jacqueline brought to you. That's 14.5 million that are committed to different needs the district might have in the future out of our savings account, basically.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, and then a few years ago, the board asked us to come and just kind of break down restricted ending fund balance and which accounts had the ending fund balances. So these are all of our grants that we receive and where they ended the year in 21-22. Those top two, the ELOP program, Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, that we plan to spend this year in 21-22. Educator Effectiveness, we have a 4-year plan to spend that out by the end of those grant funds. And then cash flow, this is pretty standard. You'll see the same pattern pretty much. We have a dip in November, and then another dip in March, and then December and April we receive our biggest property taxes, so that's a large cash influx for us, but pretty much standard as far as cash flow goes for us for the year. And then in conclusion, the good thing is we've had hold harmless over the last few years. So as Marie mentioned, 21-22 was last year for hold harmless, but because of the state's passing of the 3-year average, we'll have kind of a trickle down, so we won't have quite as much of a hit to our LCFF revenue, which is very good for us. We also are going to continue spending those COVID-19 relief dollars according to the plan that the board has approved. A lot of that is being spent on learning recovery as well as social emotional supports. And then, as I explained, and Marie explained, the larger restricted ending fund balance is due to a lot of the grants that we received this last year. So we saw a very large influx of new grant money over 21-22, and we are all working very hard to figure out how we can spend those dollars to expand and extend our programs for 22-23. And then as Marie said, we're in the middle of our audit right now for 21-22. So they're reviewing all of our program and financials. They're getting pretty close to finalizing, but we won't receive the actual final audit until around Christmas time. And then we'll come back to you in January and present the final audit. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, I'll need approval of the unaudited actuals tonight, but I'm here for any questions as well.
I move approval.
Did you have
I have a question.
Okay.
So on the unaudited actuals, the Student Activity Special Revenue Fund, I was really struck by the tremendous drop in the certificated teacher salaries. that was listed. It was a drop of 94%. And in classified salaries, it was a drop of 98.5%. So I wasn't sure what was going on with
I'm
that.
sorry, Kathy, which slide are you looking at?
Okay, I'm looking at the unaudited actual student activity special revenue fund.
That's Fund 9, Sharice.
Oh, I got you.
Fund 9.
Fund 9, yeah.
So that's our ASB funds.
Yeah.
Essentially. So that was a new change that came on 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Through the state of California. It didn't used to be part of Chico Unified's books. They were still audited and they
Oh.
had their own, but now those funds are now incorporated in Chico Unified's financial statements. So with 21-22 coming on, there was less activity in ASB. They were starting to just gear up again after having been half day in 2021.
Right, okay.
So that's part of the reason why you see that change.
Okay, it was just pretty stark. And
Any other questions?
so all of those real severe drops were basically over that. in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the student activity funds, yes.
Okay. And what about the child development fund?
That one's our preschool fund.
Uh-huh.
So was there a particular change you were looking at?
Well,
Kathy?
there's, and it said the excess or deficiency of revenues over expenditures, and it shows that the difference was 354% negative. So that's on page 1 of the Child Development Fund.
So that's comparing actuals in 21-22 last year, and they too were held harmless, the state preschool.
Okay.
Regardless of enrollment in that program, to the budget in 22-23 in the current year where they are not held harmless.
Oh,
So that's where the 354% decrease comes into.
they're just kind of stark numbers.
But that will
when you
change
don't
because we
have-
are adding a 5th classroom at Loma Vista for that
Okay.
state preschool program.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions before I keep on sludging through this?
I'm going to second the motion to approve.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, point of order.
Yes,
Just to remind everybody that the order of operations here is to have our presentation, ask questions, call for public comment, and then wait for the president to ask for a motion.
okay. So, the issue of showing a deficit with the child development fund, so I'm keeping on with the questions then. That's the same thing about we were held harmless and now we won't be?
Correct.
Okay.
And for clarification, the child development program, the state-funded preschool program, when I say child development, it has its own reserve or savings account. So
Oh.
if there's a deficit, then we draw off that savings
Okay.
account to make the program whole.
Okay. I told you it was a nightmare to go through. All right,
I'm just impressed you're looking at the whole thing, Kathy.
oh, yeah, no, every line. So, in the cafeteria, special revenue fund, that was also a little confusing because the state has said that we don't charge, you know, for food. So how are we running deficits?
I think the deficits you're seeing might be comparisons of actuals from 21-22 to budget for 22-23. So we didn't deficit spend in nutrition services, which is why we didn't have to do a transfer out from the general fund into nutrition services.
Oh,
So
okay.
they actually ended with a positive ending fund balance.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I know, those reports can be very hard to
Yeah,
read.
I was just like, oh my God, okay. Because I'm like going, it looked like we were deficit
looked-
on
yeah,
food, and I'm
yeah.
going, my kid goes
No,
and
yeah.
has
No.
breakfast, and then he has second lunch, and you're like, geez, where does he put it? I don't know. Okay, so I think that's probably the source of most of my, like, what the heck?
Yep, probably.
Okay, all right. Anybody else with questions? No, you didn't stay up all night? Okay. So, any comments from the audience? Okay, seeing none. Now, we have a motion, right? Okay. A second, okay. So, any comments by the board? Discussion? Okay, well, let's then move.
Does the governor's budget come out on the 15th of January? Is that the date where,
Yes, usually it'll come out, the preliminary budget will come out in January, and then we'll get the revision in May. So in January, we'll have at least an idea of any changes, any large changes that are going to happen in 23, 24.
it's mid-January?
Yeah, and that'll be for next school year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So this is on number 3, the 2021-22 unaudited actuals. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
We,
Process.
Oh,
we
what?
didn't have a unanimous on the last,
Okay,
so,
so we'll do a voice vote?
yes.
Okay.
Robinson, aye?
Lando, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Dolby, aye.
Tennis eye.
All right, 5-0, thank you.
Thank you, board.
Yeah, very calm delivery of something that had red marks all over. All right, so the GAN appropriations limit.
Yeah. Very exciting. Okay, I'm bringing forward Resolution 159022, adopting the GAN limit. The GAN limit was part of the giant packet that you all received. The GAN limit historically was intended to constrain the growth in state and local government spending by linking year-to-year changes in expenditures to changes in inflation. It doesn't really do what it's intended for anymore. It's pretty much a pro forma calculation, and the limit's grown significantly faster than appropriations subject to the limit. So this is kind of a formality. It's part of our unaudited actuals package, but we've presented the GAN limit to you separately on this item. Have any questions?
You just wonder when they're going to catch up to the fact that life has changed.
Yeah. Agree.
Okay, so this is Resolution 1590-22. Any comments from the audience? All right, seeing none.
I move approval.
Okay, Tennis moves approval,
I'll second that.
and Tom seconds that. Any other discussion or questions? All right, may we have a vote then? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Probably the least distinctive thing we have to do.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for your very hard work. Okay. So, I have to sign that one. We then go to the first reading of the revised and updated new board policies. And Kelly, you get to be on the hook for
Yay.
this.
Yes, we're bringing forward a new series of board policies. We do this quarterly as they are brought forward to us to keep us in legal compliance. So typically, the board will just review these at the first reading, and then if there are questions or suggestions, please do submit those to my office, and we will bring it back for approval at our next meeting. If you have questions, we're happy to answer those tonight.
So we can expect to see all of these on the next agenda for final approval?
So I had some questions. On the charter school oversight, it mentions that if a charter school were to close, that we, since we are the ones who, have put them under our approval, we have to see that the students are transferred and finalize financial reporting and closeout. And my question is, can we charge them for that?
It's a good question. I would suspect every case is different, because if a charter school closes because of fiscal reasons, that could play into what you're asking. If it doesn't close because of that, that could also play into what you're asking. So I do want to seek some more clarification on our end, but I think situationally, if they don't have it to give us, they don't have it, if that's the reason that they close. But
I just feel
Lots
pretty
of reasons.
strongly that if whatever they did blew up, even though we were overseeing it at a broad level, or I guess I should say at the 10-foot level, the chance to recover our costs seems to be something that ought to be acknowledged.
And thinking, luckily that hasn't happened, but
Yeah.
if we go to that point, typically we get involved as we see things coming up. We get involved with the school and there to support and help as we can. So I would hope we would have conversations with them about that particular scenario. I've never been in that situation, particularly where it comes to that point, but I would hope there would be some discussion there. You know, I don't know if Jacqueline or Sharice want to add anything about the fiscal piece of that, but you're right, the board policy does not totally address what happens if there's you know, belly up or if there's not. So I'm happy to find out a little bit more info.
Okay, that would be great.
I have a sort of a tangential question on that one. Are there any charter schools that we authorize that we are currently charging the 1% to? Yeah.
Yes, so the 1% is for charter schools who are not in Chico Unified property. For example, Wildflower.
Yeah, so are we charging all of them?
We charge all of our charter schools either 1% or 3%.
We do,
So,
okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
1% if they are not in Chico Unified
Yeah.
facilities, 3% if they are in Chico Unified
Yeah,
facilities.
my only question was that it's a May, so I didn't know if we were, in
We
fact,
do.
charging for all of them right now or not.
All 9 of
Thank
them,
you very much. I
yes.
thought so, but, thank you.
Okay, and we had another one too. There is a recitation of the issue with personnel. This is 3553, that designated employees can use individual records pertaining to student eligibility for any free and reduced price meal program, but we don't have those.
So that's a great question. So board policy 3550 and 3551 do talk about the universal meals, right? We're going to serve every child breakfast and lunch. 3553 specifically talks about free and reduced meal applications, and that is because that's a federal compliance piece. So you have two different situations. Universal meals is a state initiative
Okay.
signed in by Governor Newsom, and the free and reduced applications piece is a federal compliance. And that data is also used to help us determine our what we call unduplicated count students. It's very sensitive data. We get that through applications, through the compliance piece, and or through an alternative income form. So that data is used, and I know our grant writer uses those percentages of students who are free or reduced to get us funding for our district as well. So it really comes down to state versus federal compliance.
Well, it just seemed really strange to me. Would a parent resist doing this since there's no food attached?
It certainly creates a disincentive for parents to complete it, yes. So we do ask that they do complete it because it does get us additional funding via our local control funding formula if families are eligible, but it's not a mandate because we do have universal meals.
Okay. Anybody else? I have more questions, but anybody else have questions? No? Good. Okay.
You're covering some of mine. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So on 400, and this is about the notification to employees, how soon they get it. And on page 2, in the first paragraph, it says at one point, 3 months notification and 1 month more. And then the second one makes it really unclear because it says 45 days. So it was just confusing to me.
Which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at 4118, page 2. In the first paragraph, it says the notice will be given 3 months, and then 1 month after that. And then in the second paragraph, it says 45 days.
Could you repeat that policy number, please?
4118,
Oh, there it is.
page 2.
Oh, okay. So if we have an employee, this is regarding the first paragraph. If we have an employee that is not performing and we are considering dismissal, we first, before we can even go down that road, have to issue a letter of unsatisfactory performance or unprofessional conduct prior to the next step, which is the 90 days. So that has to be done 90 days because it allows for what's supposed to take place is intervention, support, an opportunity for the employee to make changes in their performance. And then what was the question on the second paragraph?
Well, the second one then said 45 days, and I was trying to figure out the difference between timing.
Is it that there's two different things? The first
Yeah, I
one
think it's the
says-
progressive discipline.
Yeah. One says, the top paragraph says unsatisfactory performance, the second paragraph says unprofessional conduct.
An awfully long time for us to carry someone that we feel like can't.
It's very, very difficult to get through the disciplinary process for certificated personnel. So it is stretched out, and we're obligated to provide them an opportunity to change their performance, their behavior, in order to meet the requirements that we're putting forward to them. So these are just education code timelines that we have to adhere to.
So when you look at the last paragraph on that page, when it says the person who's going to be participate in the Commission on Professional Competency can't be, they have to have a valid credential, but they can't be an employee of the district.
Correct.
What the heck would motivate somebody to do that?
So it doesn't happen very often, but we have had some of our staff participate in these hearings for other districts. So they will, we usually get an attorney, a call from our attorney who is representing another district, and they put an all-call out for specific, because you have to have the same credential as the person that is being dismissed. You have to have served in the classroom with, I think, in the last 5 years or something, and you have to have an administrative credential. So there's some boxes you have to tick. Well, typically, there's very few people that check all those boxes, so they kind of put an all-call out. So while we would send, if we have that person, we send them to their hearing, we would hope in the future that they would return the favor for us if we ever have that situation.
Do they get paid for the time they serve on the commission?
So we've done it a couple times. We will pay for, they get paid their salary, but they pay for travel.
Okay.
And if they have to stay, it's usually 2 to 4 days of a hearing. And they would pay for all the expenses as far as that goes.
Okay.
And we would pay the salary. And again, we would expect down the line for that favor to be returned if we needed the same.
Just seemed a very difficult position for a person to be in, and that it would be.
So actually, it's quite an experience, especially for an administrator that hasn't gone through the process. So I know of 2 instances since I've been in this position where we've had administrators participate in that process for other districts, and they readily volunteered.
Okay. Okay, so Eileen, if you thought of yours, or?
My little questions were part of what you asked, Kathy. I didn't have anything
Okay.
significant enough to put in writing.
Oh. Okay.
Everything kind of made sense.
Okay, anyone else have any questions?
Again, I do encourage the board to send us questions if you have them. That gives us the opportunity to research and clarify. Most of this is egg code.
Right.
So it is based in law.
Yeah, but this is the first reading, right? So we'll
It
have a
is our
chance
first
to
reading,
do the whole
absolutely.
conversation again next time.
Absolutely.
All right.
So I just encourage you to look them over, because they were quite, I mean, there were a great number of them. We don't usually have that much. I think that's my main things right now. Anyone else have any questions or concerns? All right, so this is informational. As noted, it is our first reading. So I just encourage everyone to go through the new board policies and to make sure that you understand, because they are to keep us legally on the right track and not running unnecessary risk. All right. So are there any items from the floor that somebody wants to bring up? What? Oh, I'm sorry, that was the, yeah, it is on the very back. Okay. So, we had things brought up in the last, and corrections, and, it looked to me like they had been done, but any commentaries?
I do. I was taken, I'm caught in the cabling. Whoever did the work to accomplish the two things that we asked to have accomplished at the last meeting, I assume it was Erica, and I was really pleased. It's the first time that I've gone through the governance handbook, and I went through it several times between Saturday and actually this morning. After it felt like the changes, thank you, Caitlin, made it a more structured and a more easily utilized document. It just, I wouldn't say that about it before these changes were made. The governance handbook, because there weren't the numbers, there weren't easy ways to reference what we were talking about, easy ways to connect back in with other parts of, because so much of it is very similar, that I found that the work that was done to bring this forward and present it tonight made so many positive changes that I couldn't come up with anything that I found that that said, oh, we need to change that. Everything seemed to fit the things that we are supposed to be governing, and so I wanted to applaud the work that was done between meetings.
I thought it was very readable.
Yep.
So, anyone have any other comments? This is a discussion action item.
Some of the things that had come up for me on my first two readings a while ago now, that I had considered potentially changing or adding, might be more appropriate for bylaws, and so I'm going to hold off on those suggestions.
Okay.
However, this is not something that needs to be taken action. I don't think it's not totally critical, but the last piece that I think that would make this document really usable for us, board members, anybody sitting up at this, in these seats, is maybe just linking in bylaws that they're related to. So when it's talking about organization, refer to bylaw 9102 or whatever, I'm just making that number up, but just as a reference piece. Because our handbook is really for us to just agree on how we are operating. Our bylaws are kind of more firm in what we must abide by, if that makes sense. And they do relate to each other. You know, some things in our handbook are pulled from the bylaws. So if there is a place to reference the bylaws, it would be nice to have just that link back to, or a reference to our bylaws, if anybody needs to see what ed code is actually behind this piece of our governance handbook as it is outlined in our bylaws. Again, I don't think it's critical. It's just a one last point that I had thought of, but I didn't have actually a chance to write it down and type it out and send it to everybody, so.
All right, so do you want to make a motion?
I move we put this off for a month until we have a new board.
Well, the concern I have with that is this is about legal validity, that we are not putting ourselves at risk. So,
Well, I'm not going to second the motion, but then I'd like to speak to the issue. Not that issue, but
okay, you want to second the motion
no.
to put it off?
I-
Okay.
I do not want
All
to
right.
second it.
Okay, well then, make a different motion.
I move approval with this document, and then we can agendize a follow-up with tying things in, as Board Member Dalby has suggested, to the legal references. I thought we had covered most of them. Member Dalby, was there anything that stood out to you as to where we haven't connected to ed code or so much of what is in our policy handbook, we have an opportunity on an annual basis to change, because we change language in different, in different parts of this, through actions connected with our LCAP, through actions connected with other things. I'm not sure that, I'm confused about why we would tie it to things that can change so readily.
So I would like to offer a friendly amendment to your motion to approve this document as is, period.
You're seconding?
And that's my friendly amendment, if you accept.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're seconded on
Okay.
approving this document.
All right.
To your point, we actually can amend this document at any time.
Yes.
And so if there is an issue that comes up, we will have at least one new board member on this stage come the third week of November, or December, sorry.
December.
Every single meeting, we have the opportunity to agendize an item, and we can add this governance handbook to that and bring it up at any time in the year. So I'm happy to just move forward with this for now, and maybe I'll just talk with Erica and Kelly about what that looks like to link in some of those connections to board policy. Board policy links to ed code. There's no references that I've really seen in our handbook that says see board policy 9100, which is board governance. So anyway, that's it. I have nothing else to say.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I would just say that I don't think that's a good idea. I know you're not moving that right now, that practice of linking. I've had a couple of conversations with staff about this handbook leading up to this vote that we're going to take now. And I'm been told that this handbook rarely comes up.
Yeah, 'cause
as a-
it's
as
not-
a topic
it's-
of
it's
conversation.
not
It
a
comes
staff
up
issue.
basically once a year when we, renew it, review it.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, we're reading it all year long, poring over it.
In theory, we're
you know, and-
practicing
and
it
so-
all year long.
And so if the references are in there, then we'd see them and then, we'd be enriched by knowing that this referred to this or that section of bylaws. Is that right? Or policies? Yeah. I don't know, it just sounds like extra staff work for something that only comes up once a year. My 2 cents.
All right, seeing nothing from the floor. Okay, call the vote. So this is item number 2, and it is the school board governance handbook for 22-23. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
Okay, so 4 to, is that just, we say 4 to 1 as abstention? Okay,
401.
401.
okay. 4-0 and 1, okay.
Kind of like a basketball team
Yeah.
record.
All right, so is there a board member who wants to agendize an item?
I have one. I've been losing sleep since our last meeting over my concept for a checklist for security for future school building. And I move we place on the agenda for discussion and possible action the concept of having a school safety checklist for future development, where we have things that we want every new facility to have.
My concern about that, and Julie's left, is that she noted that we're going to have the meeting of the facilities committee quite soon, and it's always a part of facilities. And so I think that's the place where the discussion would start, is facilities. Because that's your architect, that's who you bring in, that's who walks through every square inch of our buildings and tells us what is there and what isn't.
Yeah, I was listening when you spoke last time. I respect your opinion, Madam President. This is just something that I think needs to be in place. I think we ought to have, a list of protocols as something that would go to every person involved in designing the new school. Like, here are some things that we want in case we reach a point in our society and our school district where we want, high security for campuses.
I know, I guess my question is, I don't know that any of us here are qualified to define high security.
Madam President, point of
you could be
procedure.
broad.
Excuse me, we don't have a second yet,
No, we don't.
so we shouldn't be debating the merits at this point.
Okay, so without a second, it fails. But again, I encourage people to submit ideas to the facilities committee. I really do.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I might ask, Mr. Tennis, at the last meeting, Julie presented our list of the did you get a chance to review that with her?
She told me there would be a list.
She had it in her hand.
Build.
Did you get a chance to review that?
Yes, yes.
And you didn't feel that was going along the lines of what you felt we needed to do?
It's along the lines, yeah. It's
Along the lines.
All right. Okay, yeah, so it's adjournment. And